because I'm not allowed to be in Germany anymore because I'm fighting for freedom of speech. I expose the hypocrites in Germany, the politics, and today we are all here for Tommy because he's a political prisoner, for showing the world what's really going on in all over Europe, because this is not only happening in the UK, it's everywhere. It's in Brazil. I'm doing a documentary for Urban Scoop about what's going on in Brazil, and we have to stand together. Today is a very important day for the whole world. You make a sign, you stand up, and the world has to watch you, has to follow you in the fight for freedom of speech for our children. Because our children have a right to live in freedom and have a right to grow up in a country to be proud of. You have to be proud to be British. I have a right to be proud to be German. They can't take that away from us. Don't let them take that away from us. And today we are all Peter Lynch and Free Tommy. I wanted you put in every post on Twitter, Free Tommy, hashtag Free Tommy. Float the internet with this hashtag, that the world sees what's going on, because mainstream media doesn't want that to be seen. And we don't care anymore. We are the people. We are fighting for our rights. Thank you.
Hello, Great Britain. My name is Lutz. I'm the founder of the Pegida movement in Germany, and I met Tommy 10 years ago, and since then we became friends, and we're actually going the same way. I'm facing the same charges. I'm still free, I'm the lucky one, but I'm facing the next one in a couple of months, so I'm not sure that I'm going to join you that soon again. But we have to stand together everywhere, all the patriots all over the world. We have to go our way, we have to fight for the freedom of speech. Tommy's been charged for it, I'm charged with it. So that's why. Support Tommy and support every people's movement in this world which is going to fight for the freedom of speech, which is a people's right. This is the most important thing. If they take away that from us, we are at the end. That's it from me and Free Tommy. Let's call it again as Liam did before. Oh, Tommy, Tommy! Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson. Thanks. Thank you, London. Thank you, Great Britain.
And fight!
One more thing that we're all going to have to play a little part in. Charlie Healy from X Factor is due to be singing on stage, and he's in the crowd and he's struggling to get through. It's a great thing because it shows how many people have turned up, but we need to figure out a way of getting him through, you lot. So, Charlie, if you can hear me, just tap whoever's in front of you on the shoulder and say, I'm Charlie Healy. So if somebody taps you on the shoulder saying they're Charlie Healy, get him to the stage, the man's got to sing. And now on to Mr. Richard Inman, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, what Liam just said there reminded me of an old film called Spartacus. So we don't want everyone coming to the platform saying, I'm Charlie Healy. We only want the real Charlie Healy. But if you remember that film, Spartacus, what was the catchphrase from Spartacus? I am Spartacus. Every single one of you in this crowd today, I want to hear your voices say, I am Tommy Robinson. I am Tommy Robinson. And there's another hero, and he's not here today, and he won't be at any more demonstrations, and we've seen the videos of him. One of us, just an ordinary man, a grandfather just like I am, a father just like I am, and a patriot just like I am. Peter Lynch should be here today, and he's not. Let's have a massive cheer for Peter Lynch. And before I forget, to do when the film's on, we're going to pass buckets round the audience, and we're going to do a collection for Peter Lynch's family, and we're going to do a collection for Tommy Robinson's children. If I didn't say it now, I would have forgotten. But we're here. We're here because we're at a very pivotal moment in our country. And I believe every single one of us is not just a Peter Lynch and a Tommy Robinson. Every single person in this crowd is a British hero. You are all British heroes. And you know, many times we come here and we talk about the problems and we talk about what's wrong, and you're going to see a film in a minute that goes into great detail about that. But I want to say something. Every single person in this crowd is not a problem. You are the solution, and you're the people that are going to take our country back. And my message to Keir Starmer, the person who hates grandfathers. What do we think of Keir Starmer? What do we think of Keir Starmer? I agree. I'm not going to say what I think of Keir Starmer because I've been told to keep it clean. Keir Starmer has to go. Keir Starmer will go. And in 5 years' time, we're going to send him packing, and hopefully we'll send him to prison as well. What we're going to do now, we're going to show a film, and this film talks about Peter Lynch. This film talks about the heroes, the political prisoners that have been locked up for nothing. Our judicial system has been weaponized by evil people in that house behind you. It's got to change. It's got to change. This film is going to tell the story of Peter Lynch. It's going to tell the story of Tommy Robinson, but it's going to tell the story of the hundreds of other people whose lives and families have been destroyed by those corrupt people in that house behind you. And before we start the film, I want everyone in this crowd, I want us to observe a 1 minute silence. So I'm going to ask you, when I stop talking, when I shut my big mouth in about 30 seconds, I want a hush to go over this crowd. I'm going to ask Liam if you could time me to make sure we get 1 minute. When I stop talking, I want this entire crowd to go silent for the hero of our age, Peter Lynch. We love you, Peter Lynch! Let's have a massive round of applause for Peter Lynch! We love you, Tommy Robinson! Press play!
When everybody above them was corrupt. Peter Lynch, 61, proud grandfather and father of four, was sentenced to 2 years, 8 months in prison. His so-called crime? Raising his voice and holding the banner in defence of what he believed. Branded a far-right fuck by the media and Keir Starmer, Pete was thrown into a brutal prison system among violent criminals. But the real justice, he paid the ultimate price. Alone, isolated from family he cherished, Peter took his own life in a cold, unforgiving cell. His voice may have been silenced, but his sacrifice will echo through history. May he rest in peace. It's September 2024. There's been trouble on our streets. The government and legacy media tell us one thing, social media and citizen journalists tell us something else. What we do know is the British people are angry. What's ignited this anger? What is going on? And are we seeing lawfare waves on the British people with a whole new level of intensity? To make this film. Why running it? Because it's where King John was made to sign the Magna Carta over 800 years ago. The Magna Carta is a document designed to shackle the power of tyrants. A document that makes it clear that everyone, including the king, who was the authority in the land at the time, is subject to the law. And the law is to be applied without fear or favour. A document that has inspired freedom-loving people around the world. A document to protect free-born English men and women from the abuse at the hands of tyrants. How fast and how far our nations fall. Now, we looked at the architecture of a totalitarian state in warfare. The film we launched on 1st of June this year. Two-tier policing, a politicised judiciary, a controlled media, and dissenting voices being crushed. These are just some of the pieces that the Conservatives put in place, working hard to build their utopian totalitarian state. New legislation, arrest for hurtful words, full crime debanked, fired. This has all been the case for a few years now. And digital programmable money, mass surveillance, social credit scores, 15-minute cities, pay per mile to drive. Yes, the ULEZ infrastructure is already in place for that. Centrally controlled food supply. All these things will follow soon. More tax, less freedom, and prison for anyone who objects. But right now, we have a new Labour government, and we could not have imagined how quickly and vigorously these new totalitarians, this morally bankrupt, communist, evil-ruled, one-term Labour government would have set about implementing their evil plans. We explained previously how totalitarians use all the institutions of the state to create the facade of fairness, due process, and the democracy is all a facade, when in fact they seek to destroy the very fabric of our society with their so-called progressive ideologies. Progressive ideologies that care not a bit for the oppressed, but use social justice as a veil for their hatred of the status quo. These totalitarians create division and chaos as a pretext to usher in their totalitarian utopia. Division and chaos, they both serve their purpose. And they create families, imaginary foes. They turn the Gulf War against these imaginary demons. Why do they do this? Well, they have no power if they are scrutinised and exposed for what they are. They have no power if the people unite against them. And they are driven by three emotions. Three emotions lie at the heart of every totalitarian regime. And Keir Starmer's regime is no different. They're driven by lust, fear, and loathing. They're driven by lust, a lust for power. They will say and do anything to get it. They will say and do anything to keep it. This includes lying to us. We won't take away the winter fuel allowance. We won't raise taxes. They get elected, they take away the winter fuel allowance from thousands and thousands of pensioners on as little as £30,000 a year.
But how can we justify it to viewers who feel like it is an attack on some people who've worked hard all their lives? They're not wealthy, they don't have money to spare, and this year, if it's cold, they're going to be looking at the thermostat and wondering if they can pay their bills.
According to Labour's Lucy Power, they had to do this to stop the economy.
That is a barefaced lie. Just 1.5 billion was saved, while £21 billion was voluntarily spent on public sector pay rises and foreign climate aid. When Ed Miliband excitedly promises to decarbonise the grid by 2030, again, he's been completely dishonest. And the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Darren Jones, innocently leaked some time ago, the true cost is going to be hundreds of billions of pounds from an almost impossible transformation of infrastructure.
There's a report, of course, commissioned by the Labour Party back in 2017, which forecast that thousands of pensioners could die, could literally freeze to death because of this change.
If we have the money, billions every year, to look after people who have given nothing to this country, why do we not have 1.2 billion to give money to people who have contributed to the system and who are now vulnerable and at the end of their lives, who are doing the last chapter of their life?
They removed the energy price cap and prices jump by 10% every month. And if you've worked hard all your life, look out, because they're coming for your savings and your pensions. And don't forget, while he's webbing you, 3Gear Keir, he's had to declare more than £100,000 of freebies and gifts, more than any other MP in our country. And they say they've just found a £22 billion black hole in the nation's finances.
We have found a £22 billion black hole in the country. And that's what this is all about, making sure we fix the foundations, and then having done that we can build a better future that pensioners and so many people voted for in this election.
But they knew about the state of finances long before the elections. They just forgot to mention their plans. And when asked to spell out the details of the claimed black hole, they refused. They're not telling. They won't. The dog ain't my homework. Ridiculous. They're not hiding the political choices they made. They're actually proud of them. They can't use your taxes, remember our taxes, that's whose tax it is, it's yours. They can't use them to help freezing pensioners this winter. But they can choose to send $3 billion a year of your tax to Ukraine to drag us towards war with Russia. Instead, they're pursuing peace. They choose to send $6.4 billion a year of your taxes to support asylum and illegal migration. That's according to the Institute for Fiscal Studies. That's up 50% from last year and 6 times higher than in 2018. What's it going to look like next year or the year after? That's right, $6.4 billion in support of unilateral cultural suicide.
Angela Rayner has announced that she's abandoning plans to give British people, in brackets, who have paid their stamp or taxes, close brackets, priority council housing. We're going to allow migrants to get that. If you thought that wasn't bad enough, I love your response to this, because this sent me today quite literally over the edge. If you're a terrorist and you wanted to get social housing, you were going to be banned under Labour's manifesto. That's been reversed as well today. So what we're saying then is we're going to allow millions of people to come into this country and take away homes or whatever from British people who need them. And that is not racist to make that comment. That is an absolute proven fact.
It is a proven fact, and that amongst other reasons is why people from all those deprived communities across the United Kingdom have been protesting against immigration for the last few weeks.
They choose to give away $8 billion of your taxes on climate aid. That's giving money to other countries to help them for their so-called climate challenges. $8 billion of your money but can't keep pensioners warm. They choose to spend trillions, yes, trillions of your taxes to pursue their own net zero wet dream, exporting our carbon emissions to China and India as we commit unilateral industrial disarmament and drive millions and millions into fuel poverty. Don't take my word for it. This is a co-founder of Greenpeace on climate change.
I say not only is carbon dioxide good, it is essential, and it's a good thing that we are putting some more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere because it was running low before we came along. If we had definitive proof that CO2 was causing serious problems and we could prove it, don't you think they would write that down on a piece of paper somewhere so people could read it? They don't have definitive proof, period. I am firmly of the belief that the future will show that this whole hysteria over climate change was a complete fabrication.
And lastly, they'll smash those gangs that are transporting illegal migrants into the UK, costing us a 6.4 billion a year.
Round up, detain and deport illegal immigrants. That's what new Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has just promised to do. Well, do you believe the woman who held up a sign saying refugees welcome, close the Bibi Stockholm and scrapped Rwanda on day one?
Do you believe it? They're also driven by fear. They fear their loyalty to the World Economic Forum and its globalist and totalitarian agenda being exposed and revealed.
You have to choose now between Davos or Westminster.
Davos.
Why?
Because Westminster is too constrained.
They fear their incompetence and failures being exposed. Immigration policy, energy policy, foreign policy, every policy is a failure. They fear losing power. And they fear Islam. They're bewildered. They cower and submit to the demands of Islam out of fear of what might happen if they don't.
Well, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Gilbert Sheaton and I am the Superintendent for British Manchester Police based in Oldham.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm speaking to you today because I want to reinforce my commitment to protect every member of our Merseyside community.
Of course, cowering in the face of Sharia-loving fanatics does not placate. It emboldens and warns. Our government to people is like feeding a crocodile and hoping it will eat them last. Think Churchill said. And hiding things, covering things up. That doesn't solve our nation's problems. It's obvious to most of us by now. Covering things up lets the problems grow and grow and grow. They've done that for the last 40 years with Pakistani rape gangs for the sake of community cohesion. And they're doing it now with mass migration and the Islamisation of the United Kingdom. But lying to cover things up doesn't create community cohesion. It does the absolute opposite. It stokes anger in British people.
There was no growth in our economy in July, and yet we continually get pumped with mass migration. Should have posed this question. If migration makes us richer, why are we getting poorer? Our politicians can't just lie to us and hope we don't kick off. If the truth is so bad that we might protest if we knew about it, then maybe they should do something about the problem, instead of covering it up.
And the population know they're being ignored. And worse than being ignored, they're being condemned. This time by the Prime Minister. How on earth did he end up with this job? Anyone who thinks mass immigration might not be such a great idea. The two tick here, he's branded all of you as far-right thugs and nasties. Prejudged you as criminals, and his stormtroopers will come and arrest you shortly. The third emotion driving our so-called leaders is loathing. They don't believe in the nation state. They believe in open borders and cheap labour for global corporations. Their loyalty is low with the World Economic Forum. Two Tick here has made that pretty clear already. They loathe our nation and its people. The obstacles to their globalist totalitarian utopia. They don't want to be challenged. They are terrified of scrutiny. They don't want their lives exposed, and they certainly don't want to listen to you, the British people.
Everybody's lives matter. Black lives matter. Trans lives matter. Refugees' lives matter. Except old people's lives don't seem to matter. Why on earth are they choosing this as their first hill to die on?
Will our so-called leaders ever recognise the legitimate concerns and grievances of the British people? Do our so-called leaders actually want to solve the problems, or do they want to use the problems? Problems they create, by the way, to take more power and take away more of your freedoms. You see, these Marxists weren't elected because British people wanted to be governed by Marxists. They were only elected because of the Tories spent 14 years failing everyone. They failed the British people, failing to be remotely conservative, failing to lower taxes, failing to control our borders, failing to protect our freedoms. And now in power, these Marxists want a state of perpetual chaos and division that they create, divide and rule. There must be an ending. There must be a reason to take action against these enemies of the state, and the action will always take away your freedom.
There are reports of involving children, and I can now confirm that some of the patients have been taken to Alder Hey Children's Hospital, so that would suggest that those reports have indeed been accurate.
Here in the UK, 2 children have been killed in what police called a ferocious stabbing at a dance class in Southport, in the northwest of England.
Actually happened in Southport. A man of Rwandan descent murdered 3 beautiful girls and stabbed 8 more children and 2 more adults. How did the government react? What did the machinery of the totalitarian state do? Well, you and I would hope something like this would get the government to stop and reflect from it. Why have these girls been murdered? Why is there so much knife crime? Why is there so much rape? Why are these so-called asylum seekers flocking to our shores? What values and cultures do they bring with them? Are their values compatible with ours? Are all cultures of equal merit? You and I would hope the government would ask why the peasants, that's us, you and me, why are the peasants revolting? No, don't be ridiculous. Reflecting is not a popular pastime of communists and tyrants. Admitting they're wrong is not a key competence of these tyrants. Apologising for destroying our nation? It's not going to happen. What this government actually is, well, firstly, they did everything they possibly could to cover up the basic facts, what you and I will call the truth. They said immediately it wasn't terrorism. How can they possibly know immediately the motive, what it wasn't terrorism? How can they know that? And how can stabbing young girls at a Taylor Swift dance studio not be terrorism? They said he was from Cardiff. Axel Ruddock Yabana, yes, he's as Welsh as the daffodils. They looked for evidence he was mentally ill. I can help that one. Yeah, he was mentally ill. Anyone who commits a crime like that is mentally ill. But exactly what kind of mental illness? And they published a picture of him, looking like an innocent little 12-year-old, and reported he was a choir boy. They made him the victim. They did all this because they don't want us knowing the truth. They manage the information.
Misinformation is dangerous. Social media is good, but it's also bad when people are using it in a way that could cause a riot, threats, intimidation. I think we're going to really got to think long and hard about what we're going to do with social media. But what are they going to put through Parliament as a bill like? Misinformation is dangerous, and no misinformation or threats or intimidation should be allowed to be carried out on social media platforms.
That's their words. How absurd, how foolish, and how dangerous. And Kia, how is this working for you, managing the information? Do the government really believe their actions will help build a peaceful, prosperous and patriotic society? What about a cohesive society? Or are they so short-sighted, so hungry for power, and so disdainful of the British people that they will use anything, no matter how awful, how tragic, they will use anything as an opportunity to implement their totalitarian agenda and crush anyone who speaks out against it. As we've said, these Marxists want a state of perpetual chaos. There must be an enemy to mobilise the population against, an enemy to divert attention away from the government's agendas and their favours.
You said the right stroke was a societal black hole. What did you mean by that?
What I meant by that was that the riots, I think, were symbolic of a broken society. They were far